Hi, welcome to Cook with Joy. I'm Joy Kelly and this is my YouTube cooking show. And I hope that you're tuning in every week and it's becoming your favorite cooking show.
It's my favorite cooking show.
Yay, because you just get to eat everything. That's why you like it.
My favorite eating show.
You don't have to actually do all the work that I do to make this stuff happen. But this is an exciting show to me because my family's been following a plant-based diet for many years and really now adopting a gluten-free diet at the same time. And I know that there's a lot of cooking shows out there, but not all of them are plant-based, obviously, and very few of them are plant-based and gluten-free. In fact, I haven't found any yet. So hopefully you're tuning in every week and you're learning how to make nutritious food that's not just devoid of things that you shouldn't have, but it's full of things that can really make an impact for your health and your family's health, but also that are delicious and that are fairly easy to make. This season we've been focusing on recipes that other people have developed, and I've been using some recipes from Whole Foods, from Bob's Red Mill, from Heidi Ho, from Better Beans, etc., etc. And today I'm going to make this is one of the more complex dishes that I've made, but it's one that I'm excited about because I love gnocchi. Do you love gnocchi?
Love gnocchi.
Love gnocchi. And it's really hard to find gluten-free gnocchi, which is ridiculous because gnocchi is really made out of potatoes. Right. But most gnocchi, if you start to look at the package, add wheat to their product.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. This product over here, Gnocchi Italiani, does not use wheat flour, and so I was kind of excited to use that. But when I found this recipe for acorn squash gnocchi, I was like, okay, I've never made gnocchi from scratch, and I think I'm up to the challenge, and so that's what we're going to do today.
Love it.
Crossing my fingers that it all works out, and here we go. First thing I'm going to do is take an acorn squash. Now this has already been cooked, but it was not always this way. It took a while to cook it, so I just sliced it in half, scooped out the center, put it upside down on some parchment paper, and I cooked it until it got soft. And I made up half of them ahead of time so I could show you what they look like. Voila! Look at how amazing they are. You are going to love this.
They look like donut holes.
I know, they really do. But I'm actually going to show you how I made them because Derek insisted that I do that. He said that was the whole fun part of this. So we're going to get messy. We're going to scoop out after you've cooled it down. Don't do it when it's hot, Derek. Yeah. And we're going to scoop it out of the acorn and we're going to add it to this bowl. Now this original recipe was not concerned about gluten-freeness. Is that a word? Gluten-freeness?
I think
it's a word. Yeah, I think I did. But anyway, it wasn't concerned about that. So it called for using whole wheat flour. We're not going to do that. We're going to use a gluten-free white flour. And I think it's going to make a more attractive gnocchi. And I think it's going to be a better for you gnocchi for sure. So I've got all the flesh out of there. And then I'm going to take some minced sage like this.
Did you get that out of your tower garden?
This did not come out of my tower garden, but some of the other herbs that we did come out of the tower garden. And I do grow sage in my tower garden. I don't get as good of results as I'd like to with sage, and I'm not sure why that is. But we're going to add that minced sage to the bowl. And then, referring back to my recipe, because I did make this ahead of time, but it's a complicated recipe. I'm going to add a little bit of coconut oil, about a tablespoon. I'm using that little pregnancy test kit.
Congratulations, it's coconut water.
I'm sure that Pampered Chef loves it being called a pregnancy test, but it does kind of look like that. So I'm going to add a little bit more than a tablespoon, so just a little bit more. Because I divided this recipe in half. I made half of it last night, and then I'm making the other half today. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt. And we are going to add that all together, and I'm going to mash it. I'm using a potato masher, just like you would for mashed potatoes, and I just really want to get everything mixed together before I add the flour. And then I'm going to add a cup and a half to this. All together it was 3 cups. Actually, no, it's a cup and a half. And I'm adding, so that's 3/4 of a cup, right, Derek?
That's right.
Okay, so I'm adding 3/4 of a cup of flour to that. And we're going to get it mashed a little bit more together, and I want it to form a ball. I've never made gnocchi before, like I said, and maybe some of you have. Maybe some of you are latent Italians and you've done this, but I've always been too afraid to make my own gnocchi. So I was successful last night in rolling them into the balls, and I'll show you how I did that. But now the next step is going to be steaming them and then sauteing them with a little bit of sage. So that's going to be the exciting part. So I've got a little bit of a ball going here, and I'm going to roll this out onto a piece of parchment paper. Now, if you've got a really big surface that you can dust with flour, like if you were making a pie or something like that, that would be great, but I do not. I'm going to take parchment paper, and I'm going to use that as my surface for rolling out the gnocchi. Once again, Whole Foods, please put a serrated edge in your parchment paper so that's easier to cut. So I'm dumping this out onto the surface, and there's a little bit of flour left over. So I'm going to work that in to the dough. I'm going to make a little log out of this, making sure that I've got enough flour, adding more flour if I need to, which I need to. Really important if you live in damp areas to keep your flours either in tightly sealed jars or in bags like this, or you're going to get flies in them. And we're going to roll this into a very neat little log. And it's this rolling process that kind of keeps it together, which is going to be pretty important, I believe. And I'm guessing, because I've never done this before, but I'm guessing that having just the right amount of flour and the right amount of stickiness, it's what's going to hold it together in the steaming basket. Now, I love this idea of adding acorn squash to gnocchi, because gnocchi by itself is pretty delicious and potatoes are really great for you. But how cool is it to add a really antioxidant rich vegetable like squash to this gnocchi? And I bet you could do a lot of different vegetables in gnocchi, things that were similar to this. So in the future, I think I'm going to try a few other vegetables like this. So I've got a log of gnocchi.
That's a new phrase.
Yes, it's like a Yuletide log. And then I'm going to cut it into little individual pieces like that. And those are each going to be the gnocchi. What I did with the ones that I made last night is I got them kind of covered in flour so I could roll them into a ball, because I really want to be convinced that these are going to cook right, that they're not going to fall apart. And you can see how these ended up turning out. They're really nice and firm, and I think these are going to cook really well. In fact, I might wait to cook these really fresh ones until I had refrigerated them for a little while, because I'm a little bit concerned about the consistency of them. But I think after I refrigerated these overnight, they feel pretty good. So let's set this all aside just for a minute. Okay, the next part's the scary part, because I haven't done this before, and we're going to take this finished product and we're going to steam them for 7 minutes in a large pot that has a little steamer basket inside. So here we go. I'm hoping that it works. 7 minutes. So I'm just going to place each of them inside of this basket, and while they're cooking, I'm going to put together a pesto. Now, I made a pesto in this season. I'm not sure if it happened before this episode or after this episode. I made that pesto with almonds, but the pesto that we make today, I'm going to make with pumpkin seeds, which I've never made a pesto from pumpkin seeds, so we'll see if we like it. But, you know, the more different plants, the more variety that you can get, the better for you. So I'm kind of excited about trying that. Let's put the cover on this. Let's look at my watch. 7 minutes. Here we go. Okay, so while the gnocchi are steaming, I'm going to make the pesto, and I'm going to have 1.5 cups of roasted pumpkin seeds. So I toasted these, and these actually pop when you roast them. So I'm going to add those to the food processor. And no, it's not a new food processor. And I'm going to add a cup of basil. And this basil came off my tower garden, which is pretty amazing. I'm going to add about a cup of parsley. And a lot of people do put parsley in
It's not
pesto.
just a garnish?
No, it's not just a garnish. I'm not crazy about parsley in pesto, but it calls for it. And I know that parsley is really good for you, really high in chlorophyll and really high in antioxidants. And I'm then going to add the garlic. It calls for 2 cloves. Guess how many I'm going to add?
4.
4, that's right, because I like more. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice, and I did squeeze this ahead of time just to make it a little bit easier and less messy. So I'm adding that, and I, once again, have never put lemon juice into pesto, so this is kind of a different type of pesto. I'm adding the new Chev Heidi-Ho cheese, which of course you guys have gotten by now is my new favorite thing to use in the whole world. I want to break that up a little bit so it's not just clumpy in there. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. 1, 2, 3. And because I've got the new Chev cheese, I'm not going to add faux Parmesan like I often do when I make a pesto, but I am going to add a little bit of salt, and I am going to add some pepper. right here. Okay, and I think I have everything, and let's just get that processed. Let's see what time I've got. I've still got 4 minutes left for those gnocchis. And let's hope I can get the top on the food processor. I'm doing pretty good lately. There we go, yay. I'm becoming a professional. Okay, we're gonna blend this till it's smooth. Okay, that looks good. I'm finding that I like a chunkier pesto, and Derek, I think you agree with me.
Absolutely.
I'm really surprised by this because I've never used pumpkin, and I've never used lemon.
What's the word you use for pumpkin seeds?
Pepitas.
You just make that up?
I did not. That's what it actually called for. I had to figure out what they were. All right, it has now been 5 minutes. I just want to look at them just because I'm nervous. Getting kind of soft, so what I'm assuming is that this process is just cooking them a little bit, and we should probably let those go for a little bit longer. And while we do that, I'm going to get the skillet ready to saute them with a little bit of sage and a little bit of oil. Okay, so it says to use 2 tablespoons of oil, but I don't think we need that much. I'm just going to get the pan lightly coated. Just going to add a touch, because all we need the oil for is to keep the gnocchi from sticking, right?
Right.
We're going to coat that. And once that gets really hot, and this is important when you're doing things like roasting, like toasting nuts or getting herbs hot, you want to make sure that the pan is really hot before you start to add the other things. So we're going to add some sage leaves. Looking at the time, we've still got a minute left, and I'm going to add the sage leaves. And it calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh sage leaves, but I don't know how you measure leaves in tablespoons. So I'm just going to fill the whole pan, because what I'm assuming is we want this flavor of the sage to really permeate the gnocchi. And if you've ever had sage with acorn squash at Thanksgiving, you know how wonderful that smell is. This is actually a very popular dish with raviolis. Have you ever had that, Derek?
I have, not with sage.
Butternut squash ravioli with sage. It's really, really popular. Where have you been? So this is delicious. This is looking really good. I'm going to fill the whole pan with sage just because I want to get that smell.
It smells amazing.
I know. It's just really delicious. There's not a lot of things that you use sage in that aren't related to Thanksgiving. And then I'm going to turn the heat off on the gnocchis that I've steamed. And I'm going to gently, and I'm hoping they hang together, I'm going to add them. Ooh, wow, they did get cooked. That's pretty cool. I'm going to add those to the pan with my hot oil and my sage. I think this is going to be pretty good, man. Complicated, but I think worth it. And if I made it a few times, it probably wouldn't feel as complicated to me. And the steaming really did cook, and what's amazing is that those last 2 minutes, like at first I thought, oh, these are just getting wet. But those last 2 minutes actually did kind of cook them. When you make commercially prepared gnocchi, you boil them in water. And that's how they get done. So it makes sense that you would steam these. So I like this dish already because we've got, look at this wide variety of antioxidants that we have. We've got sage, parsley, basil, lemon, we've got garlic, we've got acorn squash. I mean, really, this is just it's a potpourri of different antioxidants that you're probably not eating on a regular basis. And
I am.
You are. You're eating sage and all this stuff every day? I don't think so.
When I come over here, I do.
Yeah, you didn't even know what a pepita was. So look how beautiful that is. This is awesome. We keep forgetting to take shots of this, but this would be great to take a picture of. Okay, I want to get them brown on each side. And it's said to use a nonstick skillet, and I always avoid doing that because usually a nonstick skillet has Teflon in it, and I don't like Teflon. But that might have been a little bit better idea. But these are getting really nice and golden brown. Yum, yum. To get the other sides brown as well. I think this is going to be a good dish. I hope it is. It certainly smells delicious. All right, so these have really gotten nicely brown on both sides. You want to probably have a look at this. Look how beautiful. The sage is really crispy and fried. And this dish could probably stand alone just as it is. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 more steps. After plating it, we're going to put some of this Heidi Ho cheese. This is a smoky chia seed cheese, and really awesome that we're getting chia seeds, which are fantastic for you, really full of fiber and antioxidants, that we're getting chia seeds in a faux cheese type product. Now it says to actually heat this up on the side, but I like to find some shortcuts, right? I'm going to drizzle this over the top of this pan while it's cooking. It's going to melt with the gnocchi. I'm not going to really need to worry about using a separate pan for this. I'm just going to put that over the top. The pan's actually shut off right now. Yum. I'll cover it for a minute. I'll get a plate and we'll put the whole thing together. Hold on. Okay, so let's put it into a pretty bowl. Because presentation is everything, right, Derek?
Everything?
Everything. And I'm just going to put 4 in a serving because I think this is going to be really rich. So let's just try it with 4 and see how that is. I want to make sure I get some sage in there. I want to get some of the smoky chia seeds in there. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Get a little sage on top just for not only looks but also the flavor. I think you want to have a little bit of the crispy sage on the top, right?
I like it.
And then I'm going to add just a splash of the pesto.
Lots of pesto. That's good
Lots
stuff.
of pesto? You want lots of that?
Love
Did you
it.
try it?
I did when you weren't looking.
You did?
When you were getting the bowl, I put my
Oh
finger
my
in there.
God, you are such a cheater. Okay, I think this is pretty good. Should I try it?
Absolutely.
I really probably should, just so I can tell you.
You want a fork?
That's okay. Wow, that is a bunch of different flavors. I think you need the whole thing all together. The gnocchi itself, I'd like to have it have a stronger acorn squash flavor, and maybe need to have a little more sage in that. The pesto really ties it together, and the chia seed cheese over the top. It's a pretty good dish, Derek. I'm gonna be curious to see what you think of it. I don't think I would do much to change it. You're gonna have to play around with it and see how you can get it down. It's a little bit of a complex dish to make. There's several steps to it, but I think this is a very special, it's a fancy dish to have if you have people over, you know, and we make some soups and we do the oatmeal and we do all that stuff. But if you're gonna have like a fancy dinner party, I could serve this as a first course or even as a main course and really feel good about offering my guests something really spectacular. So I hope you try this dish. Thank you to the folks at Heidi Ho for making it available. And really all the products just really made such a difference. We're going to continue this season with trying out new recipes. This is a recipe that I think could go in any season. I could definitely see it around the holidays, but you know, I can also see it as a spring and summer dish as well. It's really got some really interesting flavors. So thank you so much for tuning in to Cook with Joy, and I hope you'll join us for next week's episode, and I hope you invite your friends.